Hi, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois Worknet. Today, we are having our technical assistance call. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's always easier to explain things if you got questions to answer when you're there on the call. So I have up on the screen a list of the updates that we've done this month so far. So this is through February 16th. I'll update the date on there. We have updated so that you can enter any date in the field when you're updating the staff who receive training. When you access a customer profile from any list, any of the lists of customers, you will now land on the customer overview page instead of on their application, which will let you do a spot check of what's going on with those particular customers. Any employment that is entered into a step with subsidized days being tracked will all add together with the stipend incentive-based day step so that you'll get a total of the total subsidized days so that you don't exceed on 3 different spots on each of the steps. So there will be a number of total subsidized days on each of the steps. On the worksite placement page, at the top of that page, it'll show you a total subsidized set of days. And then on the progress page, where you are doing the enrollment. So for example, if a customer is coming to you from another program and they've already received 90 days of subsidized employment and you're trying to sign them up for the summer employment program, you won't be able to provide them subsidized days because they've already met that total available days. The steps that we included in this process are obviously the start permanent employment, because that's where we started it all. Pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship, completing an internship, completing on-the-job training, completing paid work experience, and then the stipend incentive-based experience. So all of those will track together so that we will get one combined total for any amount of subsidized days. Subsidized days cannot overlap with other positions or stipend incentive steps, which means if you're going to give them a stipend or an incentive, the dates cannot overlap with a job that they are also being subsidized on. So we've put a block in so that you'll get an error if you try to overlap those days. Casey Life Skills is now tracking on the overview page. We hooked that up so that it's got a green mark now if you've completed it. There is a checkbox on the progress page where all of the rest of the tracking information is. On the right-hand side, there is a checkbox where you can check if you have uploaded the participant's CSL case plan to their profile, to their upload tab. We added the signature line and date for the customer to sign on a printed version of the application. And we updated the enrollment history dates when a customer is enrolled into a program, that they'll show that actual date that you made that change to that customer's enrollment. So far, that's all of the changes. We do have a couple of other changes that will be coming up that we will talk about on March 2nd. We hope to have a couple of those, so you may see some changes, but we will talk about those on March 2nd. Now, what I do want to do is, if you have any questions about any of these updates, I'm happy to show you. But after last time we had the session and we had an agency go through some of the issues that they were having, I felt that that was a good use of our time. So if anybody else is having issues, I can stop the recording so that we're not showing live data on a recording. And then we can answer any questions that you might have if you'd like to ask them. Before we do that, though, I would like to know if anybody has any questions that Brandon might be able to answer related to mailing grants, money, nothing specific though, but any of those kind of questions that you might need to ask, that it would be good for the good of the whole to be on the recording. And you guys can unmute yourself. Or you can type it in the chat if you have a question.
Dee, this is Janice, and I have a question, not so much for Brandon, but when you come back to the updates.
Okay. Well, do you want to ask about an update now? Do you want me to?
I can, because like I said, we are summer only. So, and I know you're willing to do a training prior to that, but as we're trying to start thinking and planning, jotting things down in regards to the subsidized days and incentive or stipends and making certain that that does not overlap. I'm not certain how it's set up, and I know you'll get to that for us, but in terms, what if they are actually coming in for training the first 2-3 hours of the day, and then on that same day for the next 4 hours, they're actually going to be working? And so is it going to be by that same date that they cannot, or is it just going to be those blocks of time?
My suggestion to you might be to block out that stipend. Like if I know one of the agencies, if they show up for 6 different somethings and they show up every day, then they get a stipend based on their attendance and their participation and not being tardy and all that kind of stuff. So they've got it set up, but again, they're on a longer time period. They've got it set up so that they have all of that chunked together. And then the work would be beyond that. So you might want to save that stipend piece for the very end so that you would be rewarding the youth, in lack of a better term, and then just have their job be the first part.
Okay. Thank you. Because this will be our second year, but first time using the stipends.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then you, Brandon, you might want to clarify this, but providing a stipend and subsidized has a maximum of 90 days total, right?
Right. It's 13 weeks, or the NOFO specifically says up to 3 months or 13 weeks for category 1. And we look at the training stipend and the subsidized wage as it's either or, one or the other. Now the incentive doesn't count towards the 13 weeks, or doesn't count towards the total maximum time. But the youth should only either one earn a subsidized wage or a training stipend. They shouldn't be getting both. And then they can get an incentive.
So on the stipend incentive, they would not mark, if they're giving them the incentive, you would not mark it as stipend to track those days. It would just be the incentive.
Right. Because I've had many questions about that, because it's confusing. There are 3 different things, but you don't use the subsidized wage and stipend ever to get like at the same time. It's one or the other.
Okay. And Brandon, I want to make certain your understanding also, well, my understanding, so you can tell me if I'm correct on that, is that incentives are non-taxable. You don't have to deduct taxes, but if you're actually providing stipends, that does go through for payroll and for taxes, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So someone did ask about when I would be doing that training. So Brandon, I have a question for you. When can they start enrolling youth?
For category 1?
Correct. Can it be in May, or would it be June 1?
Right now, I mean, definitely not before May 1st. And then it also depends on when the student is in school. I mean, if they are in school. Because the category one's, aimed at students when they're in the summer. So when they get out of school.
All right, so then let's aim for that training for April 27th. I'll put that on the calendar. And we'll do it at our normal 1:30 time. And that will just be for category one people that are going to be doing. All right.
Which is the majority. That's the majority of our providers, though, too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Almost everybody's doing category one, either by itself or in conjunction with another category.
Okay. All right. That's good. All right. So I'll put that on our calendar on this page. I'll put it here for April 27th, just to discuss category one questions. Okay, Nathan asks, Brandon, what is the process for recouping the indirect costs?
Aren't they on the monthly expenditure report as one of your line items? I'm not sure about that question.
All right, so Nathan, if you
He
can
probably
check.
needs to, whatever provider that is, they need to send an email to Nicole and myself.
All right, so that's Nathan Williams. I don't know what agency he's with. Okay, so Nathan, can you send them an email, please? What is the ETA on the quarterly report availability?
Oh, I guess they mean the PPR. I still don't know yet. There's no update.
Mary, I see you. Is that what you mean? Nod? Okay, that's what she means.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let everybody know as soon as it's done. But I don't have any updates right now.
Okay. Tammy asks, does the grant info need to be put in Illinois Worknet by our agency, or does it automatically update? It needs to be put in, and we just got it working again. Some guys that were working on another agency another DHS program kind of messed up the grant input for you guys. So we had to fix that, and we're hoping that that gets pushed out today because I tested it last night and it worked. So you will have to put that in, and I will send Brandon a message that that's available now. Tori asked, when you say stipend, you are also referring to incentives, correct? And I think we clarified that, Tori. Incentives do not count against subsidized, but the stipend does.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you so much.
Okay. We talked about the training date. Camilla asks, I would like some clarification under IYIP category 3. Doesn't the youth have to be placed in a training or work experience within 30 days of being enrolled and verified in the program, trying to stay compliant? Brandon?
Not within. Yeah, I'm checking to be sure. It looks like within 3 months.
So they can do training or work experience within 90 days of being enrolled. Is that correct?
Right. Within 3 months of enrollment into the program, youth will be placed in age appropriate, ability appropriate, and experience appropriate career development training programs in a youth identified area of interest. That's linked to one of the 17 career clusters. Within 3 months.
Okay. So Camilla, did that clarify that for you? I don't see your picture, so I can't see you nodding. All right. Next, we have from Kristen, Brandon, to clarify, we can't enroll youth who are in school until they leave school, out of school for the year. So for example, youth in Chicago will likely not finish school until June 24th or so. So we couldn't enroll them in the program until after that date.
For CPS, I don't know if it was that provider. Someone did email me about that, and I relayed that to our director because that will be a major issue, obviously. And I have not heard back yet on, you know, I don't know. I pass that information along because that will be a major issue if they don't get out to the end of June. But the summer employment category 1 is aimed at just that, summer employment. So if you're looking at CPS, Chicago Public School students, then you know you're looking at when they don't, not until they get out of school.
Dee, if I could ask Brandon, I just want to make certain though that there's nothing that would prevent an organization from beginning to enroll youth in May, like after our training in April, just getting them enrolled. They just cannot start work until June or when they're out of school, correct? Because if we waited
Correct.
until June to start enrolling, that would kind of delay also.
Right.
Okay.
All right, this is Kristen for category 1. Just to clarify, so we could, you know, we're recruiting students already right now. We could.
Kristen, can you speak up just a hair, please?
Sure thing. Sorry about that. So we're recruiting students right now for category 1. We could start enrolling them in the program after May 1st, but they would not start working until they were out of school. Just to confirm what Janice was saying. Is that correct? Brandon, sorry, that's directed towards you.
Yes, they can be enrolled before they're out of school. And it may, I mean, I've got to wait to see what the answer is from our director, because if Chicago public school students aren't out until the end of June, that may, I don't know, it may be something where they can work part-time or something. But that's why, I mean, Dee's going to have this session for Worknet towards the end of April, but we're going to have a meeting as a whole, just like we had our quarterly meeting recently. We're going to have another one of those big meetings for all the providers that we're going to talk about category 1 before, you know, obviously it's going to be even before the end of the April meeting. It might be the beginning of April, and we'll address all this because we've never done category 1 before. We've never had summer employment program. So it's going to be all new.
Okay.
Well, and if you're going to do that, Brandon, maybe we just piggyback the training on Illinois
That's
Worknet
fine.
with that.
Yeah, we'll have at least one more of those quarterly, like a big all provider meetings. We'll have at least one more of those before May, at least one, if not 2.
All right. All right. Tori is saying, this is a side note for other providers, but we are in our first year and are working on developing our recruitment strategy. We would love to hear from any other orgs that are familiar and experienced with best practices. If you're interested in scheduling a meeting to trade some tips and tricks, you can reach out to us at cneal@lumini. So check the chat for the email or the phone number. Just to let you guys know too, we do have 2 flyers directed toward youth. I am getting the graphic designer to finish those up, and we will be posting those on the partner resources page for you as well. So if you're looking for a flyer, you don't have to create your own. You can just update the information on these. College students will be out of school in May. So if you're working with any college students for your category 1, then you could get those guys started. The other thing too, Brandon, I don't know if this is a possibility or not, but if they wanted to do things like Employment 101 with these youth and things where they're not actually working, where it might be an after-school activity in the offices or online, could they be doing that sort of stuff before June 1?
Yes, and also to clarify, it doesn't have to be an in-school youth, meaning they don't have to be a high school or college student. I mean, nowhere does it say that. It's just summer employment.
They have to qualify for the program though, based upon.
Right. It's based on age and the risk factors. So age 16 to 24 and the one, at least one or more of the risk factors.
All right. Okay, do we have any more questions that we need to continue with the recording? All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks for watching, everybody, if you weren't with us on the call itself.